Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
It's a bad time for the Llano Police Department as the police chief and 4 officers face indictments.
One officer is accused of destroying evidence, while investigators say the others played a role in illegally arresting a man. The Night Beat's Brandon Jones now says the town has a new worry: its image.
Well, as you can imagine, there is mixed reaction tonight in Llano. Earlier today, I talked to some people who tell me they don't want the city to be known by this, and they're speaking out in hopes of changing that. When you drive to Llano, you'll find that the town of more than 3,000 people
is it's a nice small town
where neighbors are more like friends. And Main Street is where all the locals go. It's where we find Sherry Zock. She owns the Glass Menagerie. Sherry is getting used to her space on Main Street, but now she worries about bringing customers in.
a lot of ways people say Llano is imploding.
That's because the Llano police chief and 3 other police officers were indicted Wednesday for their roles in the arrest of Corey Nutt.
My initial thoughts were, no way this could have happened.
Officer Grant Harden is accused of forcing his way into Nutt's home and arresting him and then making a false police report. Llano Police Chief Kevin Ratliff, Sergeant Jarrett Latta, and Officer Amy Shannon were indicted in connection to that same arrest. Court documents state the officers claimed that the arrest of Nutt was for public intoxication. That charge was later thrown out.
I've been on Facebook, and I understand what current pulse is on the city. A lot of people are very negative about it.
But that isn't going to stop Valerie Smossall, who owns a art supply shop near Main Street. She still has faith and trust in the police department.
I don't know. I don't know if they're innocent. I don't know if they're guilty. I'm hoping that they're innocent because I've never had anything but good, positive dealings with the police.
A positive outlook for 2 women hoping for the best during a challenging time for their city. Now, some of the officers involved are on paid suspension right now. Another officer was indicted on an unrelated case. The Llano County DA and the police department declined to comment on this story. In Llano tonight, Brandon Jones, KVUE News, Night Beat.
Police chief and half of an entire department arrested for violating one man's Fourth Amendment. Blowing the bad apple theory out of the water, a police chief and more than half of his department have been indicted this week for rampant corruption and violation of rights. By Matt Agarist, February 3, 2018. Llano, TX, all too often those who continuously apologize for crimes committed by police officers are able to justify some of the most egregious instances of outright murder by claiming the officer was a bad apple. Almost as often, however, as TFTP has shown numerous times, the bad apple theory is exactly that, a theory with no evidence to support it. Illustrating the nature of the bad apple theory is the fact that 4 people in the Llano Police Department, including Police Chief Kevin Ratliff, have been arrested for being bad cops. There are 8 law enforcement officers employed by the Llano Police Department, according to the LPD's website, meaning that half of the police force has been indicted. Does that seem like one bad apple, or a potentially much greater problem? The indictments stem from a massive civil rights violation of a single man. According to the documents from the Judicial District Court of Llano County, as reported by KVUE, Llano Police Officer Grant Harden, who has been suspended since December, was indicted on 1 count of official oppression and another count of tampering with a government record. Advertisement. The documents allege Harden made a false police report to justify the arrest of the unnamed victim on May 2. On top of Harden's charges, Llano Police Chief Kevin Ratliff, Sergeant Jarrett Latta and Officer Amy Shannon were indicted for official oppression in connection with the same arrest. As KVUE reports, according to a source close to the investigation, the officers claimed they arrested the man for public intoxication. One officer stated in his report they arrested the alleged victim outside of his home. However, the officers reportedly entered the man's home without probable cause or a warrant and arrested him, overstepping their authority. The public intoxication charge was later dismissed. As TFTP reported at the time, the DA's office said that Chief Kevin Ratliff suspended himself with pay upon becoming aware of the investigation and that he will remain on suspension pending the outcome of the investigation. Must be nice to be able to give yourself a paid vacation just after potentially committing a crime while on the job, a luxury afforded only to police officers. The DA's office said that the Texas Rangers are assisting with conducting the investigation. The Llano County Sheriff's Office will provide assistance to the city while half the police force is on suspension, as LCSO has a mutual assistance agreement to back them up on calls when necessary. Showing just how corrupt this department is, while half of them were charged in connection with a single case, a fifth officer was indicted this week as well for another case. As KVUE notes, a fifth officer, identified as Officer Melissa Sloan, was indicted in an unrelated case for tampering or fabricating physical evidence. The documents allege that on March 26, 2017, Sloan destroyed a video recording of a crime scene for a controlled substance case, knowing it would hinder the investigation. She has yet to turn herself in. As Jay Sermopoulos pointed out for TFTP, those that forward the idea that the problem is simply a few bad apples, allow the systemic problems in law enforcement to continue without being addressed. While the suspension of half a police force may come as a surprise to some, it's no surprise to the Free Thought Project, as we've reported on numerous similar incidents. For example, in March 2015, the Brooklyn Police Department came under investigation amid allegations that weapons, drugs, and other items had been removed from the evidence room. Then in March 2016, the head of a drug task force in Pennsylvania was arrested for having sex with a minor in exchange for leniency. More recently, this past July, the entire drug unit of the Troy, New York, Police Department was suspended following reports that the unit entered a home without a warrant, then tried to cover their tracks by filing false burglary reports. According to the Times-Union, the officers entered a home after they were tipped off by another Capital Region police agency. But then they lied about it. After realizing they made a major mistake, officers compounded their problems by attempting to cover their tracks. They allegedly filed a false burglary report. After the police chief became aware of the incident, and the attempted cover-up, the entire drug unit was placed on administrative leave. The common thread in these disparate cases is that there is no one bad apple, but a systemic problem of police attempting to cover for the illicit behavior of other officers, something known as the thin blue line. Essentially, the thin blue line operates as a good old boys network with a mantra that a good cop looks out for a fellow officer first, regardless of how illegal the activity is, or whether it violates an individual's rights. To be accepted by the law enforcement brotherhood, you look out for fellow cops first. Those that refuse to bend to this expectation are run out of law enforcement by their peers, as we've reported on numerous times. While it's extremely rare for officers to be held accountable for their illicit actions, the actions of the DA's office in Llano should be an example to the rest of the country that law enforcement isn't above the law. Become a patron.
Officers.
The Llano Police Department will continue operating short-handed after the Llano Police Chief and 3 other officers were indicted Monday. All were charged with official oppression, a Class A misdemeanor for what court documents state was an unlawful arrest back in May of 2017.
Yeah, I was surprised any of the 4 were indicted.
Attorney Travis Williamson represents Officer Grant Harden, who is also charged with tampering with the government record. His indictment states that the subject was forced out of his residence and arrested. Another officer, Amy Shannon, allegedly threatened to shoot him with a taser.
They have to prove that these 4 officers intentionally and knowingly violated somebody's rights. So if there's a mistake of the law, if there's confusion about how an arrest was made.
Chief Kevin Ratcliffe and Sergeant Jared Lada's indictment doesn't specify their part in the arrest, just that the arrest was unlawful. Attorney Austin Schell is confident when the case is set to trial, Chief Ratcliffe will be found not guilty.
So based on what the chief knew at the time whenever he arrived, he acted very, very reasonably. And given my review of the evidence in the video that they have, I agree 100%. I do not understand why the chief was indicted. I don't think he should have been. And we're going to set this case for trial just as soon as they'll let us.
Schell says the department was already under their microscope after a previous tampering with evidence investigation was launched. All 4 officers have been released on bond and are scheduled to be back in the courtroom in March.
2 others you see on your screen and 3 officers who were previously suspended have now been indicted. The charges are related to the arrest of Corey Nutt last year. A grand jury indicted Officer Grant Harden, who's accused of making a false police report that Nutt wasn't inside his home at the time of his arrest for public intoxication. Court documents indicate Chief Kevin Ratcliffe and the 2 others you see on your screen played a part in the false arrests as well. A 5th officer was also indicted, but it's unrelated to Nutt's arrest. The charge against Nutt has been dropped. Chief and 3 officers.
County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheep up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Charlotte County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it, 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month on Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.